What's going on, guys? It's Chev. Hope people had a good day. My day was good yesterday. I still have to ask, though, where are the Christmas noobs? I mean, I know that it hasn't been the case for a few years, but okay, this is not right. I joined in and my team is getting annihilated. Did I join the Christmas noob team? So years ago, before this matchmaking system kind of changed and things just kind of got a little bit more convoluted and less clear, I should just put it like that. It's completely on purpose, by the way. They want it to be less clear so we have less of a concise idea of what's actually going on. It used to be very obvious right around Christmas Day, even sometimes the day before Christmas, Christmas Eve. Anyone that started playing the game between Christmas and like the first week of January for the new year, they're pretty much labeled as a Christmas noob. And back then, since, you know, people wouldn't be able to get their levels through like something like Warzone or the skill-based matchmaking also wasn't nearly as like harshly tuned as it is now. Some people also try to deny that it's not tuned differently, but it absolutely is. Back then, you used to be able to have an account that has 50 days played on it and still run into somebody that literally just got the game today. It would be possible at the very least that you would end up getting into the same game. So whenever the holidays rolled around, you would end up seeing a ton of new players. You would see them, all of them low levels, not knowing what they're doing, all on their microphones laughing and talking about how it's brand new and stuff, how much fun they're having or not having. You wouldn't even have to like necessarily look for them. You would just know that that day was there and you'd be like, oh, there's gonna be a lot of new players today. And you just kind of experience it. It'd be like a grand opening for the game. This is where the true player base is completely injected. All the people that got the game on release are considered a little bit more sweaty and try hard and more gamerish than all of the people that, you know, ended up getting it on Christmas. And then once Christmas is in there, you got the whole entire general public that are all like a part of the hype, that are either a part of the people that held off. You get it. If you were around back then, you get it. You don't get that anymore because of the way that the matchmaking is. So it's crazy to me that people actually deny that that's happening. But I'm not sitting here frustrated about the fact that I can't go and stomp somebody that literally hasn't played the game at all. It's not one of those cases. I mean, I'm having a good game. It's not one of those cases. Generally, my lobbies are bearable. It's shipment, it's just gonna be unbearable to the point to where it's bearable. But it definitely does just kind of, it makes the community a lot less community feeling. It feels more curated. It doesn't feel organic. Again, it's just down to like organic feeling of just being a player, being a person that's a part of the community, things like that. I miss that feeling of like knowing that there's an injection of new players and just seeing them and hearing them and watching them interact and all of that. Now it seems like, just from multiple circumstances, not just like the skill-based matchmaking or anything, but also because we have a free-to-play version of the game now, where if you wanted to play Call of Duty, you probably went and played Warzone at this point anyway. And even if they would be brand new to, say, the multiplayer side of things, they just never bought it and they only played Warzone, the free-to-play, you know, version of everything, you still wouldn't be able to know that they're brand new to multiplayer because they would just be the same level as you. Or at least in this case, everybody just shows it's 55, at least on the scoreboards. It does kind of link into the whole thing where I talked about, you know, one of the other issues that a lot of people don't mention with the skill-based matchmaking system, where it kind of turns the players against each other because it's not very clear about what's happening, nor do people really care immediately anyway when they initially get the game. They're not aware of what's happening. They're not aware of like how curated the whole system is. And they're also not aware of the fact that like the more that they play and the more that they improve, that they're really enjoying the game right now at the moment. They don't actually know that like as they get better, the games are going to get less and less fun, but also that all of the people around you, your peers around you, would not be able to know what the fuck you're talking about because their experience is not the same as your experience. The game is curating separate experiences for everybody. So whenever we sit there and talk about, oh, too many people are using this weapon or buff this certain thing or nerf this certain thing, it's harder to be more clear. And even for the developers, I would argue, it's harder for it to be clear about what is and isn't too powerful because it's hard for you to tell what bracket is even complaining about it. Like a lower level player, for example, someone that's less skilled could think that some sort of grenade launcher is absolutely overpowered and it's super broken and it shouldn't be used, but everybody's spamming it and using it. And then you got somebody that's very, very good at the game and they're playing in lobbies with people that could use that same grenade launcher, but they're not using it because it's kind of like a gentleman's agreement kind of thing. I'm not going to use that. It makes me look like a noob. I want to beat them with this certain weapon, the meta thing. And the other players that aren't so great at the game just don't even know what the meta is. They think the meta is explosives. And then it turns into this thing where content creators, when they're talking and pointing out things, they are right in the sense of like their bracket of the game when they're playing it, but that could seem like just crying and just like whining about things if you're somebody that has never been in those lobbies to experience what is happening right there. They would look at that as like, oh, you're just complaining that you can't do this in my lobby, when it's just not the case. And it's by design that it's that way, and why they don't even talk about it. Has anybody noticed that they haven't even talked about it yet? Didn't they mention like a few weeks ago that they were gonna address some stuff about the matchmaking system? Did they not? and just there's nothing being said. Now I get it, it's, you know, the holidays or whatever, so we'll see what happens after New Year's, what's going on there with their communication. But they did mention that they were going to talk about maybe how it worked or just explain the system. Now again, I'm not expecting any real answers out of them, to be honest with you. I think this is just something to kind of like, you know, calm people a little bit, or at least be able to say that they did address it in some manner. But there's only so much that they're going to be able to say, you understand? You're gonna have to read between the lines, and another issue with that is that people need to get a certain impression from that in order to actually believe that that is what's happening. So the system creates this entire thing where we aren't even having the same experiences with each other. So when somebody explains a shortcoming or like a very difficult thing going on with their experience, it's hard for you that is having a completely different experience to go and say that their experience is true, because in their experience or my experience, what I am experiencing is true. They're both true. You see this all the time with a lot of like social issues and shit. People aren't in the position, so they truly don't actually understand. But the important thing is to know that it is absolutely happening so we can actually communicate with each other effectively. So in a sense, it can relieve, you know, the devs and stuff like that from fixing certain things because it's not an issue in every group. Or it can be seen as a thing that just confuses the devs, and it makes it actually more difficult for them to do their jobs in terms of balancing, because it doesn't seem like it's a consistent problem across the board. So it could be deemed not important enough. It was nice seeing all these videos of all these people getting, you know, all these different gifts and all this other shit. Warms the heart, warms the soul. Seeing people get PS5s and all sorts of other shit, their lives are just changing. I know some people might laugh at that shit, but like my first video game consoles and games I ever played genuinely changed my life forever. I don't think the people that got me all of the different gifts and things that, you know, added to the whole gaming thing that I was stuck into, I don't think they recognized how big of an impact that would actually have on my life. And even as I was playing it, I just figured, you know, I was like everyone else, just playing video games, you know what I mean? I figured it was normal to sit there and want to just play video games all day at that point. I got video games and I barely wanted to go outside at that point. It was awesome. I've never fallen in love with like a hobby nearly as hard as this. There have been other hobbies that I got, you know, some like harsh vocals and stuff like that, and like for some music and stuff like that, but nothing crazy. Nothing that I actually got deep into, or even that a lot of people even know or heard or have seen from me. But yeah, also, by the way, I'm currently doing the MCW mastery right here. So I've been doing this thing to be a little bit more efficient, where I go and just make a class and then I copy paste the same class over, just with a different camo on it, so I don't have to leave the game if I'm in the middle of a good game, or I start a game and then I finish it really, really quickly within like 10, 20 kills, something like that. And it's a good lobby, I'm doing well, but there's no way I can do it because I don't have the camo. I can't progress any further. So I just make a completely separate class so I can start on that one next. Same thing that you would do with like the usual camo grind, but instead just with camos. It's also even difficult to tell because everybody just shows up as like level 55. Well, I think it's only when I join games in progress. I don't know, it's weird. Sometimes I see the levels and sometimes I don't. But again, this entire time, if I ran into a new player, I wouldn't be able to tell, and they probably wouldn't be new if they're just 55, right? Even if they played Warzone, they'd have to play a few games out. I wouldn't be able to tell that they're, you know, new to multiplayer or anything just by playing this game out the same way that I would if I were to run into somebody like that. It just makes me feel like there's actually no new players coming in at all. Oh, and I mean, hey, if you go and look over at the Steam charts and things like that, there was no massive influx of players like overnight or something like there usually was with Christmas before, because anybody that had access to it probably had already downloaded and played at some point with Warzone. When was the last time you seen a comment that said anything along the lines of, oh, I just started playing Warzone? I'm not doubting that like new players haven't come along or anything, you know, just for Christmas or something, but it's such a small amount that it's not really noticeable, especially in comparison to what it was like before. That's all. I know I might just sound like some old head that's like complaining about it at this point, but I'm pretty much accepted at this point. It's been years of crying about it, but it is what it is. After all, it's just Call of Duty that I would have to deal with something like this on, so I know that I don't really get involved with the community nearly as much as I used to, just because back then everything felt a little bit more organic. I mean, even down to like the social media that we used. Back then the Call of Duty community was just like all over Twitter, and it's obviously still there. The Call of Duty community is there, but it's also now like just way different, you know? It's people like cherry picking just for like viral tweets and lots of video clips and things like that. Back then it was like really, really organic shit. You would have to be there to understand, but it's long gone, it's lost. If people don't really know or understand what I'm saying, then they're never really going to. But they will understand in like, you know, another 5, 6, 7 years from now, and they'll realize how different it is then compared to how it is now. For better or worse. There's going to be a time where they're not going to really be able to explain truly what it felt like at the time. Like, just pick something that's considered new gen, like Fortnite or something like that. It happened within like a generational thing, and it's a generational game. Someone that hasn't played Fortnite yet, or if they just started playing Fortnite, you would never be able to explain to them how it was playing Fortnite on release. You understand what I'm saying? you'll never be able to explain the dynamic and the way that people were posting and interacting with each other the same way. It's just different. It's just different. Time changes shit. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. It just makes it more difficult to communicate with each other. That's all. And that's really just kind of a progression of gaming. I'm really curious where it'll like start plateauing though. Like in terms of the evolution of communication between all the players. I know that this is a lot to think about for literally just a day after Christmas. And I just launched into this like psychological, sociological thought process, but it's really crazy. Regardless of all that, if you're new to playing it, if you got some other game, if you got some console that you never had before, because I know that even years later, the console shortage has been kind of weird. People have been struggling a lot since, you know, 2020 or so. Christmas gives that opportunity for people to get, you know, a little bit of hope back. So happy with that. I'm sad that I can't, you know, see and hear the people experiencing that more because it feels nice to see. Obviously, it also feels nice to drop like 250 kills on them for the first game, but I don't even need to be involved. I want to just see it. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys so much for all the love and support over the entire year. Hope you guys have had a good holiday, spent some time with people, had some fun, and yeah, it's been Jeff, guys. Later.